Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video, we successfully created one of the Laravel project, and when you install that Laravel project, it's provided this type of one of the folder structure, right? So right now in this video, I want to discuss little idea about that folder structure, then it will be very much helpful to you. So don't worry, step by step every folder will work. Like first of all, that is our app. App means when you install that Laravel, it's actually provided one of the app folder. Into the app folder, they have the console, that is our expectations, that is our HTTP and the models and the providers. So Laravel actually use one of the design pattern, and that is called that MVC pattern. That means the model, view and the controller. So in our next video, I will discuss about that more details about that MVC, how that MVC pattern actually work. Then it will be very much helpful to you. So right now, in short, when you want to work with the database, so everything database related, everything will be in our particular this model area. By default, they have the one of the model as a user.php model. Okay, friend. So when you're actually working with this database, that means if you want to get some of the data from the database, you have to get this data with this model. So that is the model. Okay, and also the if you want to get this data, if you want to visible it, they have the another option for the resources for the view. So if you want to get this data and if you want to view it, you have to manage it, right? So you can manage it by the controller. So to the HTTP folder, here you can see that is actually the controller folder. So we have to create all that our project controller in particular that area. So that is our main functionality, that means the controller. So with this controller, you can actually manage your all that model data, and you can visible it to the view page. So everything actually managed by this controller. And also there is the middleware, and middleware is they have the by default some of the middleware, and middleware is it's like as a guard. Okay, so if you like for example, if you go to some of the building, and into the building they have one of the guard, and if you go to room number 155, or if you want to go to the room number 157, then this guard will instruct you. Okay, that means he will be permitted that where exactly that one room number 157. Okay, so that is actually the middleware. So with this you can actually manage your all that user, that means which user is authenticate for access which URL. Okay, so here everything you can manage it with this middleware. So laterally I will also show you how can create some of the middleware and how can working with this everything. I will step by step everything I will show you, don't worry. I will create some of the controller, how can working with this controller, how can working with this model, everything I will show you. And that is our providers, that is all that by default file, that is our app service provider. So here that is all that by default. When you install that Laravel new project, automatically you'll get this type of one of the folder as a providers. And there is a bootstrap, so there is a bootstrap folder, that is a configure, so all that configuration file in particular that area. Okay, so here all that configuration file, there is our app configuration, how can working with this app configuration file. Laterally I will also show you. And then there is also another one as a database. Database means if you want to create some of the database. Okay, so if you want to create some of the database migrations table, that is actually option for the migration. So when you install that Laravel, automatically it's provided some of the file, like it's provided some of the table as a user table, that is a password reset table, and the create fail job table. So that is a migration file. So how can create that migration? That means if you want to create some of the database table into the database area, how can create it with this migration. Laterally I will also show you. Okay, friend. So that is our database portion, that is a public portion. That means here that is all that your CSS and the JSS file will be set up on here. That means here we have to add it. Okay, so that is our public portion. So here you have to add all that your CSS, JSS, or the images folder. That means if you want to load some of the theme, then all the theme file will be saved in particular this public folder. Okay. So also laterally I will also show you how can working with this folder. And there is a resources. So into the resources area, there is a by default all the CSS, the JSS, and the language and the views. So that is the main views file. As I told you, friend, the Laravel actually working with the one of the pattern, that is a MVC pattern. So this view page is actually the view page. Okay, so when you actually get some of the data from to the this data, like for education purpose, if this data actually comes from to the database, then this data actually comes from the database with our this model. right? As I told you, it will be comes from our this model, and it will display this data in our this view page. So that is the all that view page as a welcome blades. Right now that is actually one of the welcome blade page. So that is the view page. So every view page we have to create in our particular this view folder area. Okay, so it's very much important part. So that is the view. So if you want to get the data from to the database, that is a model. And if you want to control it, that means you get this data from to the database and you want to visible it in our view page. So that is the main portion will work by this controller. Okay, so that is the MVC pattern. So it's pretty much simple things. So when we work, then everything will be more clear to you. Don't worry about it. Okay, so that is the our all the resources. And also there is the routes. Route means there is the two type of routes. One is the API route, one of the web route. So if you want to create some of the application with the web, then you have to use it with the web PHP. If you create some of the API related some of the project, then you have to create it with our API. Like if you working with the React.js, if you want to working with the Vuejs, then you have to create it all that your API related everything into the API route area, rather than there is a web route. So right now we are working with the web version, right? So into the web area, I want to create some of the web project. So for the reasons here, I want to create this web. So if you open it, so that is the by default one of the URL route, and route means that is the our URL. Okay, like here that is if you click on here, rather than that is actually one of the route. Okay, so that is the route, and also that is one of the routes. So every route you can actually manage it from to this position. That is our routes area. That is a web.php. So here we have to create all that our route. So friend, also I will show you how can working with this route, everything step by step will be more clear. And then there is our storage, and then there is our test case. So that is all that by default file. There is a vendor, that means all that your by default packages is installed. Here you can see there is a composer. So every by default file is installed into the vendor area. So that's all, and that is our env file. That is also one important part. I will also show you that things later, like if you want to create some of the database, and here if you want to create some of the connection with the database, then you have to create this connection with our this env. Okay, and also when you actually deploy this project to the web server, that is our app URL. So here we have to update this app URL. So right now we are working into our local host. For the reasons you can see by default that is our local host. Okay, so laterally I will also show you. So that is our env file for creating the connection with the database. So that is actually our database portion. So laterally I will also show you. And then that is our all the default file. There is a composer JSON, there is a package JSON, which package actually you are using, everything here should be displayed in particular that area. And there is our composer JSON, which package, so every package is also displayed, you can see. So right now there is a Laravel package, there is a Laravel framework, there is a Laravel framework right now we are using as a 8 version, and there is a Drizzle, that is a 7.0.1. So whatever the things you will install, everything you will get from to this position. Okay, so that is actually our composer JSON. So that is some of the basic idea, friends. Don't worry. So literally every folder will work, and everything I will show you with the live example. Okay, friends. So step by step, everything will be much clear to you. So in our next video, I want to discuss about that MVC. So MVC, as I told you, friend, as a model, view, and the controller. So how that things exactly work. In our next video, I will give you some of the short idea about that MVC. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.